Hello and welcome back to my channel.
Move straight. Try it again.
Yeah, I don't think it'll zero. Yep, so we're over here. The meat's over there. The bed's over there. And the bathroom area is actually really big. This is probably one of the few times that I'll get to drive to nationals, unless they keep coming back to Tahoe. One of the strange things about this meet is they switched the venue from Caesars to Haraz and didn't ever address it, and also misspelled Haraz in the emails. And that's the meet venue. Since we were just a 4-hour drive away, originally we were trying to make it to early equipment check, but I wanted to make sure our cats were all ready for us to go and we had everything before we left, so we got in about 2 hours after we planned. So we missed equipment check, but I still wanted to go see the venue and just make sure I knew how to walk there the next day. Usually I include the live stream commentary in my meet recap because I find it to be pretty insightful, gives an idea of how the meet is going as a whole, like for all the lifters I'm up against. But in this case, the live stream was a little glitchy the first day, so the audio is a little wonky and probably unpleasant for you to hear, especially out of context, so I'm just gonna go over how I felt about this meet. In training, squats have been feeling really good going into the meet. It's kind of hard for me to say that now that the meet was 2 weeks ago, and going back to squatting always takes me some time because the week going into the meet and the few days after when I take days off, I always forget how to squat. I opened with 152.5 kilos and my second was 162.5 kilos, which you just saw. That was my previous personal best. And then I ended with 167.5 kilos, which was a 5 kilo PR. Historically, squats have been my more weak lift, and I think relative to other people in my weight class, that's the one that I probably have a little bit more room to improve. So I'm really happy with how squats have been going the last few months. I do have to keep in mind while looking back at this meet that my previous meet before this was in November, which wasn't that long ago, and technically I've done 3 meets in the last year. My first bench attempt was also a higher opener than I've ever done, 102.5 kilos. It was the weirdest attempt of all of my benches because I think I kind of paused in the middle. I think I got out of position, probably somewhere between my chest and the middle, and I managed to recover it and finish the rep. The second and the third, I did 5 kilo jumps, which is pretty standard for me for bench. I think I'm pretty predictable in that sense. And I was pretty happy with how the second attempt moved, so we went for 112.5, which was a all-time PR. I have never touched anything over 110, and the only time I've ever done 110 successfully was actually SBD Austin. Actually, no, I did 110 at the gym the week before this meet. I didn't press record, and so I only have security camera footage of that, but it was really smooth. And this is the only time I've ever attempted over 110. I started off this prep training on a Hansu rack because that's what our gym has access to. And then I switched over to the Alico rack about 3 weeks before the meet. I had noticed last year when I competed on the Alico rack for the first time at Nationals in Atlanta that it felt really different from any bench that I'd ever used, and that was part of the reason why I felt it was so important to practice on it. And I do think that that has helped with confidence going into the bench, but also with the setup. I got a weird back cramp last year, did not have a weird back cramp this year, but also I wasn't distracted by cheering in the audience that I think got me hyped, and I realized that I don't get hype for any of my lifts. I think I'm relatively unexciting to watch. I just never train hyped, and I figure might as well just compete unhyped as well, because the one time that I got excited for my bench last year, I full body cramped. So deadlifts is around when I think things started to go not the best. I felt like my opener was harder than it should have been, and my last warm up also felt a little harder than it should have been. This is a heavier opener by 7.5 kilos compared to previous heaviest opener, and I had a feeling going into this meet that I was going to be affected by something. I kind of thought it might be altitude at first because I felt really out of it in Salt Lake City and just really tired, and I don't know if I was also fighting off a migraine that day or what, but by deadlifts I had kind of run out of steam, and my second was the most shaky second that I've done in a really long time, and it was 192.5 kilos, which is actually just 2.5 kilos over my heaviest gym single going into this prep, and I felt like it was way harder than that 190. So I kind of wasn't sure if I really had room, but I wasn't about to not attempt my third. So I think my third actually was more successful than I thought it would have been. Looking back at the replay, it looks like I got it off of the ground, which is usually what I'm bad at, or if I have a sticking point, but then I get to my knees and I think I just get so pulled forward somehow that my hands end up rubbing against my thighs, and then it just comes out of my hands. I don't ever have grip issues typically, so I think it was more my position got lost and it got yanked out of my hands rather than a grip issue. This is the morning after my meet. I'm sitting here drinking creatine in a cup and enjoying a view of this lake. We've had this view this whole time, but because the only time we've been in here is for sleep, haven't had a chance to see outside. So I'm feeling okay physically. I'm a little bummed about my last deadlift, as I'm sure everyone who has to deal with me this weekend will have heard or is hearing about it, but it was a good meet. I hit some PRs and I live to lift again or train again as soon as we get back. So we are headed down to help our friend compete in his meet today, and then we're gonna hit the slopes for 2 days. So hopefully my body and knee will hold up, and yeah, excited to see the outside of Tahoe. So for this meet, before I forget, the gut cut went really well. I dropped like 5 pounds in a few days along with a small water cut, and I kind of fell out of it for a few days. I think it was the dehydration. So when I started doing the water loading, kind of had a headache, and then when I did the water cutting, I had another headache. So I think I kind of had a mix of too much water and then too little water headache, which is different for me. I usually don't get headaches for water loading and cutting, but sometimes I'll get like really cold when I have to drink a ton of water at once. But I think it was also combined with the stress of getting ready for the meet, getting everything like to the venue and just making it, because we kind of got in the day before the meet. So everything was kind of like down to the wire a little bit. But I think that's just how it had to be done. Like, we had to finish work and we had to make sure our cats were well taken care of, and I wanted to make sure we had everything packed. So my priority was more that than leaving earlier, and it was just a drive away. So
in that sense, it was slightly more flexible than flying, but with flying, you know, you have to leave by a certain time, which has its ups and downs. And now it's the day after. I slept way less compared to the previous couple days because my weigh-ins were at 1 yesterday. So I tried to sleep in a lot because I couldn't eat or drink anything until weigh-ins anyway. And then last night we slept for less than 5 hours, and because we're up for the morning session today, and I actually have no headache. So I was feeling kind of out of it because I kind of slightly had a migraine going into the meet. And then now it's the day after, and of course, like, my knee feels better, my back doesn't feel tight, and my headache's gone. So
This was our first time snowboarding in many years because Nationals has been like April or in the summer, so I didn't want to risk hurting myself over the winter. And since, meet was over, it was time to hit the slopes, and I had forgotten kind of how to balance. I forgot that I am regular and not goofy, and I definitely landed on icy patches, bruised my knee, Grant bruised his butt crack, and after one day we were pretty wrecked, so we kept it at one day. If you ever do go to Heavenly, I highly recommend going up to the higher portions on the California side as you get this beautiful view of the lake.
Slido, that was a Slido. Beep boop, it's cold.
So this is the view going up, and if you go right over to where that lady is behind that hill, that's the Nevada side, and this is the view going down. It's so beautiful, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I have to thank Grant again for coaching and handling me and dealing with me in real life all the time. And I'm just so happy that I'm still making progress. I'm like 11 years in now, I think. This is my 11th year of competing, and I'm still having fun. So as of right now, I don't have any meets planned for the rest of the year because there aren't that many on the calendar, and I really hope that something cool comes up that I can train for. But till then, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Okay, what's the range I want to see now that we're here? Range is 0.